Okay, so the competency-based education or CBE approach allows students to advance based on their ability to master a skill or competency at their own pace, regardless of environment. This method is tailored to meet different learning abilities and can lead to more efficient student outcomes. So, in short, we can say that competency based education is an educational approach in teaching, learning, and assessment for better learning outcomes from an institute. It is aimed towards gaining knowledge and expertise in particular competencies in each subject taken by the student. It empowers the students to take account of their learning and provides them with a meaningful and positive learning experience. The unique approach is outcome based and enables educators to help students develop knowledge, values, and become lifelong learners even after the attainment of their degree. Here we can see one image. Let us try and understand what is it, what the teaching learning process should be or should not be in the classroom. What we can see in the first picture, we can see that the teacher feels self-accomplished, just passing the information which she has, and the student is just the mute spectator or the listener. That is not good enough. In the second scene, a bubbly child with multiple dreams entering the classroom where the loads of information is stuffed into his head. And yes, he does graduate, but less chances of getting jobs in future. And also he does not possess any life skill to handle the real life situation. Teachers, please try and understand what are we doing. Are we teaching only to test? Or are we not teaching our children in school to handle themselves and their life well? Please think over it. So in short, we can say that what is the competency-based education? Or in simple language, we can say that competency-based education means that instead of focusing on grades and yearly curriculum schedules, the main focus is placed on how competent each student is in the subject. This means that students can only move forward when they can demonstrate mastery. Next is that what is the need for competency-based education or CBE? What is this? First one is it prepared the student for future. What is it? It focus on the skills of students rather completing the syllabus, only which makes the student future ready. Next point is meeting the needs and standards of various diverse organizations. In a classroom, students are coming from diverse background. We all know this. Some are from poor, some are from rich background, but their needs are very different and their standards are also very different. So as a teacher, we have to understand or recognize their abilities as well as weaknesses, and we should work on it as a facilitator. Next is increase employability ratio. What is it? We as a teacher have to make them employable, and for that we have to work on their skills. Next is the example of competency based education or competency based learning. What is it? We can see in this picture that two students or two people, they are learning the driving. So now competency-based education can be understood by this. What is this? That what are we working as? A dictator? Or no, it is not. We are facilitator, a guide, and a evaluator. But a evaluator of different kind. When 21st century skills we are talking about, every child is different. We all know it. The learner here has to be learning driven. Hence, he must know in advance what learning outcomes is being defined here. Here, a driver knows that he has to know driving. Similarly, our students should know what learning outcomes he is going to achieve. It is not only the teacher who should know the learning outcome, but it is also the child who should know or aware of the learning outcomes, or after this teaching, what should I be able to learn and how I will implement in real life situation. And of course, these all are guided by learning outcomes. We all know it. Next is competency based education, and let's talk about its pros and cons. There are both benefits and disadvantages to using a competency based education system in our school. So everything has the advantages and disadvantages, but that can be overcome. So let's discuss about the pros first. That is each flexibility and each student. What are these? A flexibility for all types of students, no matter their knowledge backgrounds or literacy levels. Bias is removed and equity or equality is achieved. Students are better prepared with the skills necessary to succeed as adults, and students learn how to be better learners and take responsibility for their education. In old fashioned classes, pupils don't always get the opportunity to go over work sections that they don't quite grasp. The teacher sometimes moves on very quickly to get all of the work finished in time. This can leave some students with a gap in their understanding. One of the most significant advantages of this learning style is that it puts the ownership of learning into the students' hands. They go through the work at their own pace, which reduces the chances of them not understanding the content. And what is flexibility? It, in terms of flexibility, we can say that it is very flexible. This CBE program, students do not have to sit in class or go over sections of work that they already understand. This is because they can control their learning based on projects and other assessments. Seeing as though the students can do their work at home, it would be helpful for them to communicate with their classmates. Educators can interact with the students through live streams, conference calls, screen shares, etc. And most competency-based learning programs are designed with affordability in mind. However, the program's cost differs based on which institutions they are offered by. This is very suitable for adult learners also, this competency-based education. And the pupils should be able to balance a job, other commitments, and studying, as there are no set hours. That means anytime, anywhere, they can achieve this CBE program. And what are the cons? Cons means key competencies must be determined and defined for each class, which is very difficult. Assessments must be more meaningful and creative. Teachers must be constantly aware of students' progress and thus be ready to jump in and help a student who does not understand or isn't on track to graduate at 18. All this being said, the advantages mentioned above can be overcome by building a well-informed research-based system. Competency-based education can succeed. One example, I can say that in India, if a student does the course of any CBE program, either it is engineering or it is something else, we have to complete this time period of 2 years. Suppose if it is the 2 years program, so the student has to complete the whole 2 years. But in foreign countries, if the students can achieve the whole program in 6 months, after 6 months they can get the certificate. So this on this we can say that social learning involves students observing and imitating one another in the classroom. Pupils that study via a competency based education or learning program learn independently, which means that they do not have the opportunity. This is also not suitable when new knowledge and skills need to be acquired within a specific time frame. And not all pupils study the same way. Various learning styles benefit different students more than others. Unfortunately, CBE programs do not take this into account. This means the course will not fit the preferred learning styles of all students. Some pupils will find studying through a competency-based program very easy, while others will struggle and have poor results to show for it. So all these cons can be overcome, right, by the pupils, by the teachers also. And at this point, I can add one more, that benefits of, instead of having all the cons, benefits, what are the benefits of CBE? In terms of the benefits of CBE, we can say that these advantages can be resolved as the students gain real world experience and students can work at their own pace. The closer student teacher interaction enables them to improve their grades as well as the way of assessment. And do you know, teachers, that only 19% of engineering students or graduates of India are employable, for which they receive the training for. So what we have to insist them, that they should learn the real life experience, right? Next, the 6 main principles of competency-based education. What is it? That equity is, first one is equity is set before all else. Equity does not mean that giving each student the same thing as everyone else. Instead, it means giving each student what they need to reach the same end goal. This is the main principle of competency-based education because it purposely seeks to understand and remove bias in school leadership. Students are taught and supported based on their personal strengths and weaknesses, giving each individual the same chances for success. Thus, the predictability of achievement based on culture, social class, household income, all language is completely removed. Competency-based education also helps to create an inclusive culture where all students feel safe and respected. Next is classes emphasize measurable competencies that help build skills for life. What is that? Competencies must be defined in advance and set as learning objectives for each student. What are these competencies based on? Rather than just testing for head knowledge, competencies focus on practical understanding that a student has of the subject. What are these? These can be based on understanding the key concepts, the ability to apply knowledge and meaningful problems, and mastery of relevant skills. Next is transparency helps students take ownership. What is the end goal for each student in a particular class? The answer to this question should not only be available to teachers. The learning objectives that are set for the class should be clear to both students and parents. In a competency-based education system, students understand these three things when starting the class. What are these? what they need to learn, how mastery is defined, and how they will be assessed. When each student has the end goal clear in mind, they will take more responsibility for their own education. For example, a student understands that he needs to take his understanding of maths and apply it by completing the project of designing a small garden. And he needs to use math skills to measure the size of the area and determine how many plants will fit. Next is students get the support they need individually. Following the above example, let's say that the student has a problem with his garden project and comes to the conclusion that he needs help. This is where the teacher ability comes into the picture. In CBE environment, students should have a framework to understand how long they should work on a problem before asking for help, and when in the class time they can approach the teacher. For example, teachers may ask students to submit a video essay or create a digital portfolio that can be shared online. So these type of assessments allow students to demonstrate their understanding of the subject, which is the basis of CBE. Next is the teachers assess for growth and mastery. In terms of assessment, we can say that assessment come in many shapes and sizes. We all know that. So the three types of assessments that are specially useful for competency-based education are formative assessment, authentic assessments, and digital content assessments. So formative assessments helps teacher to determine where each student is in the learning process and adjust their teaching as necessary. And it also gives teachers the ability to adjust in real life by clearly identifying the key areas where the students need to improve. And in authentic assessment, students take their knowledge and apply it to real world situations. And it is another great way to demonstrate mastery. Plus, students get to develop skills that they will need in the future. And in digital content assessment, it become a lot easier. Many classroom softwares include assessment and progress reporting, which helps teachers see exactly where each student is in the learning process. Next is students move forward when they demonstrate mastery. And by including regular assessments and data-based progress reporting, teachers understand where each individual student is in the learning process. And when students demonstrate a clear understanding of the topic, prove their ability to apply that understanding, and show how they have developed important skills, it's time for them to move forward. Next is CBE example of in Latin School of Chicago. What is it? We take an example of CBE, how the CBE process or program is applied in the Latin School of Chicago. At Latin, competency-based learning is used in foreign language classes to group students who are closest in their language abilities. This means students of different ages may be in the same class, since this is where they best fit in abilities, instead of moving automatically from Spanish 1 to Spanish 2 at the end of the year. And Bing Wang, a Chinese language teacher, shared his experience while he was getting ready to finish one lesson. A student asked for another essay practice. This student recognized on her own where she was lacking in application and also realized she needed more practice. This experience shows how the move to competency-based system helps students hold themselves accountable for their own education. Next is the role of a teacher in achieving learning outcomes to be based on CBE. So what should be the teacher's role in the classroom? So students should be allowed to crack knowledge out of experience, and we as a facilitator inspire them enough to seek knowledge. Next, repose faith. We have to repose faith in child's own creative instincts, and we should engage each and every student in the classroom. The four C's. What are the four C's? Collaboration, communication, creativity, choice, and critical thinking. And education must be inherently experiential, peer-to-peer learning. Okay, this can be used. This process can be used in the classroom. And what else? Students get inspired. The students should get inspired and learn something wow, and we should inspire them constructive and participating approach. Each and every student in the classroom should participate in that approach. Initiative, they should take the initiative in learning process, and they have to be themselves, they have to think themselves. That means they have to be, or they should be genuine. And browse to learn, there is no boundary to learn, sky is the limit. And we all have the internet, accessibility of internet, so we can use that in learning process. Self direction is also very important, that student should know clearly which direction he or she is going to. Next, to explain this CBE program, we can say that knowledge is acquired by the student first, then this knowledge has been converted into the skills, and the skills are converted into the abilities. That is called real CBE. Next is traditional. What is the difference between traditional and performance based program, teaching learning programs? In traditional teaching learning process, we can see the movements are based on time here, and in performance based learning, movements are based on performance only. Here learning happens only in the classroom. Here learning takes place anytime, anywhere. Here it is in traditional learning, driven by textbooks only, and all the teaching learning process are bound by the textbooks, the syllabus of the textbooks only. And here it is driven by the needs of learners. We focus on the needs of learners. This one is teacher centered decision making, and this one is learner centered decision making. We focus in traditional teaching, teachers focus on learning basic skills in different subject areas, and here in performance based learning, we focus on critical thinking and problem solving skills across content areas. Here in traditional learning, teacher is the only judge of equality student work, and here self, peers, teachers, administrators all are involved. Here in traditional teaching learning process, prepares learners for industrial age jobs, but here prepares learners for 21st century jobs, which is very much needed. Next is, what are the benefits of CBE? CBE reconstructs the educational process towards demonstrated mastery and the application of knowledge and skills in the real world. And CBE programs are flexible anytime, anywhere, anyone can acquire it. CBE programs give students more control over time frames and topics. What is the time and what is the topic the teacher is going to teach? They are very much aware of the fact. Next is, CBE programs provide students with the resources and support needed throughout the learning process. Each and every students in this process are provided with support by the facilitator. Then with CBE, the main goal is to provide students with the necessary knowledge, skills, and tools. All the things, these are the things which they are provided with. Next is creativity. What is creativity? We should inspire them towards creativity and towards to do the creative activities. So creativity is the tendency to generate social skills, ideas, alternatives, possibilities useful in solving problems and multiple approaches to a situation. So we can inspire them, image talk, this can be used, creative space, alternative way of learning lessons, right or wrong, this can be used in creative thinking or creativity. Next is critical thinking. So critical thinking is the analysis of facts to form a judgment. And critical thinking is required for a learner to think in clear, rational, logical, and independent manner. So in this critical thinking, goal mole, that means asking riddles, ask yourself mad questions, impromptu debates, group discussions, पूछो तो समझो, that means questioning, creative questioning. These processes can be used. And when the critical thinking is coming, when the question of critical thinking is coming, so let me ask you teachers, dear teachers, one mind blogging question. That is, you tell me that the yolk of the egg is white or the yolk of the egg are white. Which is the correct answer? Teachers, please answer this question, that the yolk of the egg is white or the yolk of the egg are white. Which should be the correct answer according to you? Or you can write it in the chat box also. Is there anyone to answer this question, please? Teachers, please, can you answer these questions? Okay, the answer is neither of the sentences are correct. The yolk of the egg is not white. The yolk of the egg is yellow. So these types of critical thinking can be used in the classroom. This in the CBE program. So CBE, next is CBE is based on 21st century skills. What are these? Learning the 4 C's. What are the 4 C's? Critical thinking, creative and innovation, collaboration and communication. So the 4 C's help build executive function skills such as planning, organizing, and all the things. These skills help children develop self-regulation, working memory, and recognitive flexibility, which will encourage them to learn new ideas and develop their social emotional capabilities. Next is innovation, that virtual reality. With this virtual reality, what is this? Teachers can genuinely bring conceptual subjects to life by allowing students to experience, examine, and explore more abstract subjects. They can visualize and engage with the topic in ways that just are not possible with traditional learning. And that innovations, what are the innovations? That project-based learning, inquire, investigate, analyze, virtual uh, reality, 3D visuals, two is enough, compare between two different objects. So these are the innovations. Let them free. Activity out of the class we should do along with the students. We should not confine within the 4 walls of the classroom. We should go outside and do the activities along with the children and give them a break. They also need break to boost their mind. So also they should be provided with break, and to explore and research and use all the tools to uncover something new. It involves a different way of looking at problems and solving them. Next is collaboration. What is collaboration? Collaboration skills empower students to work together in groups to solve a given problem. So paragraph writing on visited monuments using adjectives and nouns, this can be used. Speaking and listening skills within the group. Different clues enable students to arrive at a solution. Next is social skill activities. This roll the ball, virtual playtime, expression, mimicking games, topic game, step into conversation, improvisational stories, memory game, face it. This can be the good examples of social skill activities. And these skills learning improve students' positive behavior and reduce negative behavior. It also promotes students' academic success, health, and overall well-being. Next is mathematical competencies. In class 1, class 4, class 5, we can use these type of mathematical competencies to boost their mind, that count items 1 to 20 with objects and pictures, draw angles of different measures with the help of protractor, use the unitary method. So a maths teacher can understand this properly. Next is class 1, 3, environmental studies competencies. What are they? Courtesy to elders, peers, family, and neighbors. List of occupations, produces daily and articles. Experiment how to purify drinking water. Identify physical features of the map and describe them. So this can be the process in the classroom used by the facilitator to boost their mind. Next is, how is competency different from skills? Skills are specific to a task, whereas competencies incorporate set of skills with abilities. And what is OBA? OBA is an approach to program and course designed to teach and learn that is focused upon what the students are expected to learn and to do so. Now come to the National Education Policy of 2020 and competency-based education and learning outcomes. In competency-based education project, CBSE aims to strengthen the capacity of schools to deliver high-quality competency-based lessons, particularly in science, maths, and English. And we are working with the Central Board of Secondary Education at the secondary level to improve competency-based assessment through this initiative. So this project aligns with the National Education Policy, or NEP 2020, the largest educational transformation agenda in India in 30 years. The NEP 2020 calls for a shift from an assessment system that is summative and primarily tests rote memorization skills to one that is more regular and formative, is more competency based, and promotes learning development for our students and tests higher skills such as analysis, critical thinking, and conceptual clarity, and encouraging and helping school boards to shift their assessment patterns towards meeting the skill requirements of the 21st century. So how to implement this competency-based curriculum in schools according to the national policy, education policy of 2020, that is curriculum, syllabus, textual materials to present content and competencies in an integral way. Teachers should undergo well-planned training for adopting pedagogical for competency-based learning, assessment practices to develop parameters, rubrics for assessing competency-based learning, and learners to be assessed on the basis of competencies like ability to reason, critical thinking, virtues, concerns, etc. So what are the competencies used in English language teaching? So being a language teacher, I want to discuss about some points how to improve the language skills among the students. So this process can be used to improve their language skill. What are these? Grammar, translation method, direct method, bilingual method, communicative language teaching, structural approach, natural approach of language teaching, etc. Now conclusion. What is the conclusion? So we can see that this CBE program or competency based program helps a student to become a creative thinker, a character, global citizen, critical thinker, and communicator. And competency based education helps students to develop and demonstrate mastery over a topic and builds culture of equity and inclusivity, and prepare students for life beyond the walls of their school. So thank you, teachers, for your time and consideration.
Teacher, the session was good. It was informative.
Thank you, sister. So, sister, shall I call it a day?
Hello.
Yes, sister. Can
What,
I
did-
end?
what
Can
did you
I
ask?
can I end this meeting?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you, teachers, for your time and consideration. Thank you, sisters.